Good morning, second graders. Today we are on page 245, and our objective today says, today I will apply the associative property, or commutative property of addition. So today I will apply the associative property or commutative property of addition. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Apply means use. That's what apply means. So we're going to be using these properties. And we've seen these properties before, but let's look at our vocabulary to remind us of what they mean. The commutative property of addition says, addends can be added in any order and the sum will remain the same. So here we have 42 plus 13 equals 55. If we switch the order of the addends and we have 13 plus 42, our sum remains the same. That's what the commutative property means. Okay, the other property we're going to use today is associative property of addition. It says a sum is the same regardless of the grouping of addends. So here I have 3 addends. In the associative property, you're always going to have 3 or more addends. If you want to pause to write that. For the associative property, you're always going to have 3 or more addends. So I have 11 plus 15 plus 13 equals 39. So when you solve 3 or more addends, you want to group them. So here they grouped the first 2, and then here they grouped the second 2. And both times you get the same answer. And I'll show you this one in more detail, friends. But it's associative means about grouping. Okay, I'm going to get started right away on my 3 problems actually today. Here is my first problem, and it says, write a related number sentence using the same addends and same sum. Okay, so I have here, says 28 plus 12 equals 40. How could I write another number sentence? Well, I only have 2 addends, so what I could do is I could just switch the order of them. So I could put the 12 in front and the 28 second, and I'm still going to get the same sum. So it says, which property could we apply when looking at the 2 numbers? Which property tells me I'm allowed to switch the order? That's called the commutative property. Commutative. Sometimes people think there's an N in it. There's not the letter N. So commutative property tells me I'm allowed to switch the order. Okay, let's look at my second problem. My second problem says use the associative property to group your addends differently. Okay, so here they said 16 equals 3 plus 7 plus 6. And they grouped the 7 and the 6. They want me to show that I could do this by grouping them different, because the associative property means you have 3 or more addends, and I have 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to group them different. So let me first write my equation with my 3 addends. Okay, so they grouped the last 2, the second and third addend. I'm going to group the first and the second. So what is 3 plus 7? 3 plus 7 is 10 plus 6. So 16 equals 10 plus 6. So all I did was grouped them. Now to show that I grouped them, I'm going to put these things called parentheses around them. So the parentheses show that I grouped those 2 together. Okay? Let's look at my next one. Use the associative property to group your addends differently. Okay, so here they grouped the first and second addend because they had 1, 2, 3 addends. So 4 plus 4 plus 6 equals 14. So let me write my equation first. And they grouped the first two. You want to group ones that are next to each other. I wouldn't want to group these two. So since they grouped the first two, I'm going to group the second two to make it different because they want it different. And to show that I grouped them, I'm going to put parentheses around them. So I have 4 plus 6 equals 10. And then which one did I not use yet? The 4. So 4 plus 10 equals 14. So that's all that says is you're allowed to group them any way you would like. Okay, let's get started on some together, friends. We're on page 246, and our first problem says, use the associative property to group your addends differently. Okay, so remember the associative property, let's underline that, tells me I can group. I'm going to group them. So what does my equation say? 19 equals 7 plus 7 plus 5. So there's 3 addends. And they grouped the last 2. So they said 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay, so let's first write our equation. Our equation is 19 equals 7 plus 7 plus 5. Since they grouped the last 2, let's group the first 2. Let's group those 2. And we're going to show that we grouped them by putting parentheses around them. Okay, so we have 19 equals 7 plus 7. Those are your doubles. 7 plus 7 is 14 plus 5. So we didn't use the 5, so we bring it down. Okay, the next one says write a related number sentence using the same addends and sum. So if I look, I only have 2 addends. So I can't use the associative property, but we could use the commutative. And the commutative tells me that I can put them in any order. Commutative means order. So let's switch the order. Let's put the 22 first and the 77 second. So we just took our 2 addends and flipped the order. And our sum will still remain 99. So what property was this? This was called the commutative property. The commutative property. Okay, let's look at our last one together, boys and girls. It says, use the associative property to group your addends differently. Okay, and we're using the associative, which tells us we're going to group. So they grouped the first and second addend and left the third addend alone. Okay, so let's write our equation first. Our 3 addends are 6, 5, and 6, and our sum is 17. Okay, since they grouped the first 2, let's group the second 2. And we're going to show we grouped them by putting parentheses. Okay, so we have 5 plus 6 equals 11. And then we have a 6 there. So 6 plus 11 is 17. So we're still getting the same answer even though we grouped them differently. Okay, boys and girls, keep practicing this and have a great day. Bye-bye.